Hello, Garland Nixon with the one and only Matt Weinglass, straight out of LA, straight out of LA, whatever you want to call it. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here with Matt Weinglass. Matt comes on weekly, and we always have plenty of things to talk about. He's out of LA. He always updates us as what's happening in who the latest Ozempic victim is, and all of the stuff that's going on in the music industry. But so let's get started, Matt. Now, so, as you all know, if you watch my show and you happen to be working for YouTube, we are 100% in favor of all vaccines. They're all safe and effective. Right now, I'm taking my MMR, but I just had one about an hour ago. I got one sitting for after the show. We got to get, because measles, I mean, let's face it, that is a pandemic that when I was a kid, everybody I knew died of measles. So we got to stop measles. Who cares about alcoholism? Tobacco, smoking, car accidents, those things pale in comparison to the numbers that are lives that are lost daily by measles victims. And thank God that RFK Jr. is all over this. Some of the Maha people are maybe a little bit concerned. Why? I don't know. It makes no sense to me. But apparently he's done a 180, it seems. And this latest MMR safe and effective vaccine, he's pushing it. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
Well, I mean, clearly RFK Jr. is following the guidelines of the CDC, everything that we're supposed to do as well, Garland. We know that, things change over time. We used to have natural immunity. That doesn't exist anymore ever since COVID. So
Stone Age thinking, pal.
Yeah,
we get it with science.
So, I mean, obviously, it's frustrating to look at the change that has happened with RFK Jr. because we have a timestamp of things he said that are completely contradictory now. I mean, we've seen just a few weeks ago, he was even, I mean, this is very recent that the language has changed dramatically. Because a few weeks ago, he was saying, okay, look, we got to have vitamin A available. It should be an option. He talked about every person should have an opportunity with their family to discuss all the options. But he was still kind of saying, well, vaccine is something that we should really, really consider highly. And now he's gone even further. He has doubled down on this last post he put out on Monday, where he's saying that the most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the MMR vaccine. Which is completely contradictory. You go back a few months ago, he was asked directly, would you give your children the MMR vaccine? And he said, no, absolutely not. So both things cannot be true at the same time. Again, you're right. The Maha people are confused. We're like, what's going on? And they're looking for ways to justify this language shift right now.
And here's the thing. Okay. So he wrote in a post on X Sunday that the most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the MMR vaccine. Okay. Here's the thing about it. And this is the real concern that many of us have. And that is, as with any other medical interdiction, right? There comes a question. And that is, what is the worst possible thing that can happen to me if I get the illness? And is it worth taking the chance of the potential side effects of the supposed cure or prevention? People joke about it. We'll joke about, hey, I saw something on television and it said this can prevent red splotchy skin. Nobody wants red splotches on their skin, can be itchy at times. And then they get to the advertisement and they're like, can cause certain types of cancers. Check with your doctor. You've had TB, could cause blindness, could cause your penis to fall off. And you're like, what the hell? I'd rather have red splotchy skin. So the issue being comparing not that, it might be that I'm not saying that what he's saying is not 100% true. It may be that the most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the MMR vaccine. Could be true, right? Could be true. But it still ignores, and I think somewhere in that statement, if I'm going to say, let's say I found out through pure scientific evidence that the most effective way to prevent the spread of measles was the MMR vaccine, and all the science and empirical data showed that. Okay, I'd say that. I'd say, however, you got to me throw this in. However, a caveat: people should consider the potential side of effects as opposed to the potential danger of contracting measles before they make a decision. I mean, you got to say something like that, because I don't know anything about the MMR vaccine. It could be great, but I guarantee there's some potential side effects. And I grew up, everybody I knew had measles. So I'm not like, when did measles turn into the freaking bubonic plague? How'd that happen?
Right, exactly. And so when you look at what's not being said, I mean, you're hitting it on the head here, Garland. We see what he's saying, and you can maneuver and say, oh, he's a lawyer and he's lawyering and he's saying the words, and he didn't exactly say, something is, you're going to have these bad effects. He just said it prevents the spread. That's what he's saying. Okay, well, that can actually check out that it's the most effective way to prevent the spread. But the fact that he is omitting this other very important information, that is lying by omission. That is where we look at that as some people call that a white lie, whatever, when you're not revealing information that you have a responsibility. You're the HHS secretary. You have a responsibility to put this information out and not just do these one-liners and manipulate people and steer them. And you know better. You're a lawyer. You're using verbiage that, okay, it checks out, but your base is going to get furious at this. So why are you doing this? We're trying to figure this out. And the only conclusion we can come to right now, based on a history of other problems we've seen over the last several months, Garland, the only thing we can come to a conclusion of is that he's not really in charge, that he has to do these things. That's the only thing. We can't possibly think that he believes, even with the long-term plan, oh, it's going to take a long time. Fine. It's going to take a long time to do all the things you're setting out to do. But this is not a way to get to that destination. You are taking a step back. One step forward, 5 steps. That is not a sustainable method in how you're going to use these 4 years. And we see it now. We're calling it out. And it doesn't. So something else is going on behind the curtain, behind closed doors.
And I'll put it this way. I could say, and be completely honest, if you take this pill, you have measles, yes. If you don't have measles, yeah. If you take this pill, it'll stop the spread of measles. There's no more effective way. And you're like, oh, great, I'll take that pill. What's in it? Cyanide. It'll kill you instantly. There's no way you can spread measles if you're dead, right? So in theory, anything that kills you is going to effectively stop the spread of measles. That's why a lot of illnesses don't spread. For instance, what's the one? Hemorrhagic fever. You get hemorrhagic fever. Usually it doesn't spread. It spreads around a little bit, but not that much, because it kills you within like 48 hours. So you don't have a chance to spread it all over, right? So what he's saying could be 100% right. But so, and the term, as a person who was, and I got to admit, I was an investigator and I was a person who trained investigators, right? So when you talk about language of someone, the issue is not lies or not. It is, does it indicate deception? People, if you're interviewing a person and they're involved in a crime or whatever, right? They don't want to lie, because if I say I wasn't on street corner X and I was, later on you find out you got me, right? So I want to say something that a person says indicates deception, right? Hey, did you know that the victim drove their red Toyota home? I didn't know that they were driving their mother's car home and taking the Beltway at 7. So you add a lot of caveats to it, because the answer is yes, but you wanted to somehow deceive me and leave yourself out, right? And it seems to me, when he says that in the context of being RFK Jr., that's what we got to take into account. How did he get the support that he got? How did he make his name for himself in recent years? Before that, he was just RFK Jr. People were like, hey, RFK Jr. Yeah, I thought it was RFK. Probably great. Awesome. Too bad his dad got killed and his uncle got killed. We probably thought, hey, he may be a decent guy, whatever, right? But in recent years, he made his name by being a skeptic. of the government. When it came to Ukraine, he was a skeptic. And we were like, that guy's skeptical of power. I like him, right? I think that's how I made his name. And now it's like, you make a statement and people are like, but you didn't really give us enough. You didn't say, measles ain't going to kill you, bro. Come on, it ain't all that bad. And you might want to look at this MMR vaccine to see if there's something in there that freaks you out. He leaves all that out. Just, oh, sure, yeah. Shooting yourself in the head is the most effective way to stop the spread of measles.
So I'm going to bring up that I just thought it's why you were saying this, Garland, because we look at people's character and how they behave in other ways, and we can apply it to now and to what we're dealing with now. And look, you're right. You mentioned some stuff that he got right. He got Ukraine right. He got the two-party capture right. And then he, goes independent. And then he goes into the Trump campaign because he says, well, we're going to bring this. This is going to be kind of an alliance of different people and kind of a come together. The Maha movement was born right there. And a lot of that checks out. But there's that one issue we haven't brought up yet today, but I know we will. There's that one issue of Israel. And
Yes.
we say, okay, you know what? He's completely off on that, but that's not going to affect the Maha movement. So let's not talk about it. But I remember an interview me and Craig Pasta, Jardula had with Laurie Spencer, who was the campaign manager with the RFK Jr. campaign, as he had gone independent. And so this was a big moment to let's go independent. Let's get away from the two-party system. Here are all the talking points, all the bullet points. And she was very excited to come on, talk with us, and let's go through this thing. And Craig, and you guys, if you know Craig Pasta and myself, us here at the Homeless Left, we're not going to ignore the Israel problem. We're going to bring it up. We say, what's going on here? And she comes back and goes, hey, if you want to be a one-issue voter, that's your problem. But there's so many other things. And we pushed back and said, you know what? It's not a one issue. It's an everything issue. If you are deliberately going to get Israel and Palestine wrong, now we know how you're going to behave when push comes to shove on other things. So it's a full picture issue. It's not a one issue situation. And here we go. This is exactly what we warned Laurie Spencer and anyone else who thought he's going to get into HHS and he's not going to we're not going to deal with the Palestinian. Don't worry about that. We're going to get this right. Really? Really? Because you're using the HHS Twitter account right now as Secretary Kennedy tweeting out that the number one health concern on our college campuses right now is anti-Semitism. So that doesn't check out. And now we're having this conversation right now on your show right now, Garland. We're talking about why is he omitting this? Why is he doing this? Well, guess what? We've already seen his character, his behavior. When push comes to shove, he's willing to compromise and say something which we all know is not true and omit something that we all know should be said. There you go.
Well, yeah, it is sometimes a single issue. I always make the joke that some guy's in a bar and he meets some girl and she's like the beautiful girl. He's like, oh man, you know what? I was just out on a Friday night and happy hour coming home from work. Met the most beautiful woman in my life. This could be it. 2.5 kids in a minivan might be in my future. This is the woman. And she asks him a few questions and he tells her he asks her a few questions and she says no. And he's like, man, I think I might be lucky tonight. Right. And she says, oh, by the way, just want to tell you one thing. Yeah. About once a month, I go out and kidnap a family of 4 and hack them to death with a machete. I am a serial killer, not all the time, just every couple of weeks, maybe once or twice a month. I mean, hold that against me. And the guy's like, yeah, that's a deal breaker, right? You can't just pretend that one issue is not a critical or crucial issue. That one issue may be the one that identifies who you are, the foundation of your being. And I keep saying everybody's got to have a deal breaker. And with all these Democrats, well, what about Trump? But you got to have a deal breaker. And if genocide ain't a deal breaker, I don't know what it is. And I think it's showing up with him. I think it's showing up with Tulsi. I think a lot of us who wanted to hope for the best and we're like, yeah, well, okay, Trump is what it is, but he's got a couple people in there that'll maybe yank his chain a little bit. And what we're seeing is that one issue reveals something about their character.
Yes.
That shows a level of moral corruption. Is that the word I want to look for?
Yeah. or completely captured and has no way out, and we're literally going to have to ask him, hey, blink twice if you're okay there, RFK.
Right.
Like that's
Hostage
the only
video
other, right?
tweet.
That's the
Yeah.
only other assessment that we can think of at this point. But it's a character analysis that we have. We're perfectly able to do that right now, and so it's either the character or it's that you are you're being held hostage against your will. That's it. Those are the only real two options we're left with. And unfortunately, like I get it. Like we're hopeful. We think, oh, can we just get a couple things done? And I'm not saying, look, let me be clear here, Garland. I'm not saying that RFK Jr. is not going to get one or two little, throw us a bone here. We might get the red 40 dye out of foods. We might get, the big pharma commercials off of our NFL games, whatever. Like those two things might happen. Okay, great. But you're not going to do the thing that people need you to do because it's too hard. Yet it's I've had people tell me this is a low hanging fruit. Getting the mRNA get it off the market, get it out of our bodies, just stop doing it. Any other product that had this type of bad reaction to the public, you would pull it immediately. So this idea that this should not be a low hanging fruit, it's ridiculous. It's preposterous that you would think, oh, it's a political thing. You got to be patient. Really? You don't have to be patient if a car manufacturer accidentally screws you with some brake pads that don't work and two people die, gone from the market. No discussion. Like, well, we'll have to get in there and I have to say the right thing. And then maybe, it's going to take 4 years and we might be able to get that. No, it's off the market. It killed a couple people, gone. So this is the low hanging fruit we're not able to grab. We might get a few things thrown at us, but overall, we see the character or we see the capture of this person and the whole crew, basically. And we're not going to really get much more than that. So I hate to be Debbie Downer here, but this is the reality of what we're dealing with.
But you're calling them as you're seeing them. I keep bringing this up. 2020 Biden. Oh, we're going to give you this public option and a minimum wage. We're going to do. He said we're returning to the era of diplomacy. We're going to do free communication. All this stuff. Some you may like, some you may not. It doesn't matter. He gave us a whole list of things. He didn't even attempt one of them. None of them. He just said, Senate parliamentarian. Come on. I'm the president of the United States. You don't expect me to stand up to the Senate parliamentarian, for God's sake. He's the real power around here. We're like, okay, sure. And then it was, but no. Did I mention cinema and mansion? Yes, sirree. A couple senators, they're far more powerful than him. Okay. So now you get Trump in. I'm going to be the peace candidate.
Yeah.
I'm going to stand up against, and I got RFK Jr. He's going to make America. We got Maha. And what I got, I'm like, dude, you gave us a slogan. You gave us a slogan. We've had slogans before. Maha, MAGA, all these great slogans, right?
Hope and change. How about all that?
That's what I feel like that. I feel like he is the Republicans' hope and change guy. Because Obama came in, he fed him the hope and change crap, and he went on about having a smiling face. And, good looking guy, great speaker, and he carried on what the ruling elite wanted. Trump comes in here, I'm pushing against the ruling elite, blah, 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 blah. Even with these, what do you call it? Tariffs. I feel like this. The ruling elite, they hate China. And he just dropped 70 of them or something. Literally just dropped 70 of the tariffs, right? That in reality, they hate China. So this is their anti-China. This is the way to screw the American people. This is the way to say, well, American people, we're going to separate you from China, all Chinese goods. And we're going to be like, yeah, but we need to buy a lot of stuff that we can't get on a day-to-day basis. You're going to run people out of business. You're going to screw people totally. They're like, yeah, we're going to do that. But we got a good excuse this time. And there's Trump. Oh boy, this is really going to lower inflation like he promised. So in the context of we've been lied to about other things, it's good to the point where we're looking at RFK Jr. We're like, that's Obama, Trump, Biden. The more things change, the more things stay the same.
I mean, people how many times do we have to go through this? Look, I don't expect, me personally, I wish I can go back in time and see what was going on while it was happening in real time when Obama was purposely not pushing the single payer healthcare when he had supermajority of the Congress. There was no excuse not to. Why would you not do that? Why did Obamacare end up being this right-wing basically it was a cardboard cutout of a Mitt Romney Republican plan from Michigan. So we were making excuses at the time saying, oh, he's got to be patient and maneuver. It's like, be patient with what? You have the super majority. So look, I get it. Fool me once, it's shame on you. But how many more times? We've seen this with Bernie and AOC. We've seen this. I mean, we've talked about this, Garland. How many more times do you guys have to see that you're not Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders aren't on the phone late at night saying, what can we do? What can we do? Kamala Harris isn't on the phone with Netanyahu saying, we're trying to come up with a plan. These phone calls of passionate pleas, and we got to angle and just, like you said, Joe Manchin, oh my God, this guy has so much power. We just need to talk to him nicely. Those conversations are not happening. This is theater to make us think that there's people doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing, and it's just really hard for them. It's not that hard. You know how we know it's not that hard to do something you want to do? Because anytime it's time to bomb another country, we can do it instantaneously. Doesn't take time. Doesn't take 4 years to figure it out. How are we going to convince people? Drop some more bombs in Yemen. How are we going to convince people? More money to Netanyahu. You just do it. Very easy. It's not hard. It's not hard to do something that you want to do. That's the lesson here that we should have learned by now.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what's interesting? Obama won in a blowout. Why? What happened? Well, because there was really an economic, cataclysm, right? 2008, absolute economic disaster. Obama says hope and change. He wins in a blowout. Why? Because people wanted a different direction. They wanted a different direction. They didn't get it. What happens after 4 years of Biden? Warmongering, mandated vaccines, mandated everything was mandated. They came down on firing people because they refused to get the vaccine. All these things that a lot of people did not like, right? Then you get war after war. We get inflation going through the roof. People are sick and tired of being sick and tired. Trump comes in and he won in a blowout. Same thing after a disastrous of the other party. Before it was disastrous Republicans, Democrat comes in. Now it's disastrous Democrat, a Republican comes in and wins in a blowout. And right off the bat, if you remember Obama, what's one of the first things that kind of woke me up? Obama said, yes, if there's a strike, I'll put on a pair of comfortable shoes and go get on the line and walk with him as president. And then it was up in Minnesota, Wisconsin. There was a strike up there, and it was the state employees, and they were upset. And they called the White House. Hey, is Obama going to come? The White House refused to even answer. Rahm Emanuel was this guy. Rahm Emanuel, right? Former IDF guy. And so run out of Chicago for being a neoliberal lunatic. And so Obama names him. You should have known right off the bat what you have. But bottom line is, it was all a lie. And you see Trump 2 months in, hey, judge me by the wars I don't start. By the way, I'm bombing Yemen.
Yep. Yeah. This is the pattern that we have to pick up on and know it's all BS. And I had one more memory. This is probably the most twisted thing Obama did in public, because he did a lot of twisted things behind the scenes. Oh my God, just stuff that people weren't paying attention to. But the stuff he did, like right on camera, if you do you remember the Flint, Michigan
drinking the fake water?
He does the drinking of the water right in front, just mocking them right in front of their faces. And he gets back on an Air Force One and goes back to DC. Just that smug look of, I'm thirsty. I need someone to give me some water. And when he first said it, there were the people in Michigan like, oh, he's going to show everyone that the water's dirty and it's contaminated. That's what he's doing. And then it was such my heart sunk, because you could feel how the room shifted when he got the water, and it was preset. It was preset in a water bottle. It wasn't the water they were drinking.
No, absolutely.
On. And he puts it to his lips and he drinks it. And they were just like, is he doing this? Is this happening right now? Did our president that we thought was our hope and change, and he came here to get our backs, he's just mocking us right now, and he's getting back in the plane. He's gone. What a slap in the face, a punch in the gut. And they didn't forget that. And we saw what happens when you say, we're done with this. We're not, you have to, it's on you now to win us back, which obviously Hillary didn't do. And, going on from there. But this is where we're at. We have to get smarter and we have to get more courageous with how we look at this duopoly that is playing these games with us over and over. Like you said, Garland, each whatever you change the guard, you pass the baton. It's the same thing on both sides. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing, and we have to say enough already.
Yeah, and so Trump comes in with which remember, old Elon Musk was talking about how expensive everything was, right? Oh, this is terrible. We're overspending. We've got a $37 trillion deficit, right? So what did we find out recently? Trump's increasing the military budget by $133 billion up to $1 trillion. Meanwhile, they're laying off like regular old working class people. They're going through and I know people who are involved in this. It's an absolute disaster. It is what they're doing to the federal government it's disastrous. You know what I mean? It's like the law, ADA requires that you have a section for reasonable accommodations. If somebody comes into the building with a wheelchair, you got to make sure that they can get around, or if a blind person, you got to ensure that there's braille in certain areas. And so you got to have an ADA compliance, right? They come in and fire all the ADA compliance people. The law says you got to have them. They just come in and fire them all. There we go. Get rid of all of these people. Yeah, but that's the ADA compliance section, and the law requires we have lawsuits. You know what's going to happen? The lawsuits are going to be 10 times what it is. That's the law. Like it or not, that's the law. And they're just going through doing stuff like this that is absurd. It's like, well, all of the information for whatever, Social Security, you name it, whatever, goes through this one section. They fire the whole section. People are like, well, all the information, nobody's going to get their checks, or people out here are going to try, they get nobody to call. Oh, by the way, the Social Security website's crashing. So you got everyday people who worked their whole life, put in for Social Security, and they're ready, they need their money. Sorry, we ain't gonna be able to get it to you for 18 months or something like that. You'll lose everything you got by the. It is obscene what's going on there. And I say that to go here. So you tell us you got to fire all of these federal employees, regular working people, to save money. And you raise the defense budget by more than all of the money that you saved, so-called firing them. And then it's another $1 billion for the war that you promised us against Yemen so far, that you promised us that you weren't going to start. And might I add, and then you say, hey, we'll do this as long as it takes. That's $1 billion a month, at least.
It really takes this whole the branding of what DOGE was supposed to be, right? It was supposed to be, let's shut down all, not just excess, but it was supposed to go after the corruption. And I'm still waiting to see who's going to jail, because I was told all these, the US aid stuff was corrupt, all this money laundering. We were going to get to the bottom of it. Well, I'm not seeing anybody going to jail or being charged with anything, but we saw this excess money and people got excited. The MAGAs were excited, Garland. They were saying, ooh, we're going to get these checks for $5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember the $5,000 checks were coming, because we did the math and we figured if this certain amount here, $500 billion here, and we divided up with each family and playing taxpayer, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, wait a minute. That doesn't go back to the American people. That money's going to be put somewhere else. And what do you know? Like you said, the $1 trillion military budget, there you go. So no one's going to jail for any corruption in US aid. You just took the money and you're just reallocating it to your next wars. And that's all it is. And so how do we get how do we benefit from any of this? And how is justice being done if no one's being held accountable for any of the corruption within US aid? And then you have half the country that are saying, you see, we were right. You see what happens when you vote for Trump? That he just shut down all of our amazing agencies. And like, I understand, Garland, what you're saying. Like, I agree. There's people, just total chaos in some of these departments, but there has been corruption. So where's the follow through on the laws that were broken and the money laundering? I don't think we're going to get any follow up there. It's going to make the people who voted for Kama look like that. We were right. It's like, well, you guys still don't know how horribly corrupt our government is with or without Trump. I mean, you guys don't fully understand that. But yes, like we've been saying the whole time, out with the old corruption, in with the new corruption. It's the same thing over and over. And the job was done to keep the American people mad at each other for who you voted for or didn't vote for. And that's who they're protesting against right now. They're not protesting the actual system that is run on a war budget and a war agenda, which was what keeps our capitalist system alive. It's Western imperialism. It's all that its function is. It's not an accident. It's a necessary function to keep our system going. And so people are more confused than ever after all of this chaos, which it looks like it was by design, to be chaotic, to be quick, to be impulsive, and to keep everyone confused. And just like with these tariffs, like you mentioned, it's confusing people. Everyone's all over the place. They don't know what they're protesting, Garland. They're going out and they're saying, what do I put on my sign? I don't know what to do. Meanwhile, real protests, the Palestinian protesting, which is not getting any accurate coverage, that's something very clear, very sharp. It's the only one we're seeing that is very clear and sharp right now. But everything else is chaos.
Oh, they were totally fake and manufactured protests. I mean, the hands off was the fakest. I did a deep dive on that. The people that put it together at indivisible.org, one of them used to work for the State Department. The other one's an advisor to Obama. These are the people that put it down and worked for the two people are Ezra Levin and Leah Greenberg, husband and wife. And if you look at them, they're nothing but operatives for the machine. Levin worked for some NGO that was financed by BlackRock. Come on. Okay, so these are BlackRock standing up against the man. You know what I mean? It's just a joke. Even how do you have in this day and age, this nationwide what do you call it? A nationwide protest, and not one word about Gaza, not one word. The only thing they said about NATO is hands off NATO. Not one word about war, not a mumbling word about too much money going to the military industrial complex. They didn't ask for anything. What did they ask for? They asked hands off NATO. Did they say, hey, we want people to get health care or stop the bite? Nothing. It was, down with Trump and Musk. That was pretty much it. When Nancy Pelosi is wandering around speaking at your protests, you ain't standing up against the man, the establishment. Nancy Pelosi's there helping you to stand up against the establishment. I just pity people who thought that was some kind of a genuine protest.
I mean, we have to tell people, look, if you might just be confused. You show up to something, you think it's going to be a good, purposeful thing. And we get you want to be active, you want to participate. But yes, like you said, if you show up to a protest and Nancy Pelosi or any other high up government official shows up to the same place you are and they're speaking on your behalf, go home, turn around and go home. You got it wrong. All right. It's okay. We all can make mistakes, but it's not a resistance movement. If the people in power are there to speak on your behalf, then you're not resisting anything. And again, you might have made a mistake. It's fine. Just go, walk back to your car, turn around and go home. You might get the next one right, but just, be smarter about it. Don't waste your time. Because like you said, Garland, it's just all theater. It's all a psyop. And we cover this too. The guy, the indivisible guy, he goes on Rachel Maddow talking about, it's so amazing what we're doing. But you mentioned the NATO thing. So you have this NATO, hands off NATO. That's deliberate. That's to protect the war machine. So when you had groups that were going to be speaking at these in all the major cities, they had reached out to a bunch of groups to say, hey, will you be part of this? And we know that because one of the groups, it was a smaller one of these ones. I hadn't heard of it before. I think it was called WHOA or something. It was they posted on their Instagram account. We were asked to speak at one of these. And they said the conditions were, we cannot mention Palestine. And we said, F you, we're not doing it. So that was deliberate. That was by design. That wasn't an accident that Palestine got left off of hands off. I mean, it would have fit perfectly, Garland. Hands off Gaza? Are you kidding me? Like that fits perfectly, yet it's not. It doesn't fit because the whole thing is staged. It's all fake. All fake. So it looks like we'll have to hold it here until Garland comes back on.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah. We must have pissed off the wrong person. Let me show you something. This is the couple. This is the wondrous couple who put together the whole thing. Leah Greenberg and Ezra Levin. When they got married, that was back in 2015, the New York Times did an article about them, friends first and always. And if you look at it, it just tells a little bit about their backgrounds, their parents. His father worked for one of his father worked for the Obama administration. What they did, they worked for nonprofit organizations. His mother was a social worker. We've always laughed together. Blah blah blah. We continue to be best friends. Don't you think it's a little conspicuous that two people, Leah Greenberg and Ezra Levin, happen to get married? Okay, yeah, so what? Look at that, a nice little couple. They got a friggin' mutt. They're walking around, wonderful. I love dogs, and they're holding hands and they're smiling. Great, that's great. Isn't it interesting that the New York Times, of all things, why would the New York Times do an article about just a random couple that just happened to get married? One could look at that and say, man, it's almost like the machine is like, hey, look at these two people. We're going to make a thing and stick them out there. And here they are today doing the hands-off NATO thing. You know what I mean? To me, it's such an operation. It's such a inside operation that it's pathetic that people can't see this.
Yeah. And let's not forget, and I'm sure these guys they're a brilliant couple because they probably help each other with their nefarious ideas of how their ploys of how to trick people, and they're probably very good. I mean, they're very good. If you look at this flyer, the hands-off flyer, you have hands-off NATO, you have hands-off free speech. I mean, really, hands-off free speech as Palestinian protesters are getting arrested, deported, called domestic terrorists. Just this whole terrorism ploy that protesting for peace and stop murdering children and stop the Israel war machine is not part of this, but yet you're saying hands off free speech as all of us are getting canceled and terminated and shadow banned and all that, and you didn't care about any of that, and you want to talk about other accountability that you don't have. Did you know our bodies, hands off our bodies, is also on the market?
Oh, well, where was that in 2021?
That's interesting. My body, my choice. Really?
Temporarily.
Really? Is it really?
Well,
this is just anybody. Look, we're not going to punch down at people and say you're an idiot to show up to this. We're just saying be a little more aware of what you're getting excited about, because that's by design. They want you to get excited. They want you to think that you're resisting something. This is not resistance. If NATO's on your flyer, you're not resisting anything. You are protecting something that you should be more critical of, and you should be showing up to the real protests, the ones that they don't cover on mainstream media, the ones that Nancy Pelosi doesn't show up to. Those are the protests you should be at.
Yeah, if the people who put together your protests are on Rachel Maddow all week, and Rachel Maddow, oh, that's a great protest, 100%, it's wonderful. What is it about again? It's anti-Trump and Musk. And what do you stand for? Anti-Trump and Musk. Oh, okay, good enough. There you go. Everybody come out and say Trump and Musk are bad. What about their policies? Well, we support most of them 100%, but that's not important. We just don't like the fact that they're doing it. We feel much better if Liz Cheney and John Bolton were supporting Kamala Harris, standing up with her for standing up against, Hamas.
Yeah, right. So there's another one I should mention to your viewers, Garland. There is actually another protest coming. It's a rally. It's coming up in LA. We're here in LA, and it's next weekend. And you remember the Fight the Oligarchy tour, Bernie and AOC. They're coming here to LA, and it's on this Saturday. And we were talking about maybe showing up, pulling like a due dissidence thing where we kind of go there and we just kind of ask people, why are you here? What are you fighting? And we might show up with a crew there and do something a little low key there this weekend. But man, everybody in the entertainment industry, they're all so excited. They're like, it's time. We're ready to resist Bernie and AOC, and they're carpooling. I see all these notices, all the Hollywood, we're gonna be there, and they think they're so progressive and so against the grain, and we're gonna really stick it to Pelosi. No, she wants that. This is part of by design. You get AOC and Bernie out there, they're controlled opposition, and then you look at the lineup with them. And again, this is Hollywood, so you got to have a little pizzazz. They got Neil Young opening for them. Neil freaking Young, Garland, is going to be open. This is a guy who just came after anti-free speech. I mean, so right then, like, just you're against free speech, dude. You wanted to cancel Joe Rogan and all the Spotify situation. You try to boycott it. Half your album's owned by BlackRock, you moron. You sold it like 10 years ago. you're going to be on a stage with these. So people don't know this stuff. So I'm trying to help educate them, but I know they're excited. I know that they think Bernie and AOC are sticking it to the man. Hello, guys. Spoiler alert. They are the man. Come on.
Yeah, well, we already know what happens at midterms. Oh, we got to stand up against the oligarchy. Oh, it's almost midterms. Oh, you got to come out and vote for J.B. Pritzker. And Pritzker. This is unacceptable. That we know we're going to get, that they're going to do that bullshit in between the, elections. And then they're going to come out and say, you got to support the Democrat, whoever they put up. If they literally run Liz Cheney, which won't surprise me. That literally the Democrats, if they run Liz Cheney, Bernie and AOC will be out there saying, you got to support Liz Cheney. Anything else is unacceptable. We've had it with that. What do you think of this whole, the Yemen business? Find again, the whole bull crap on so many levels. Trump, I'm not going to start another war. Judge me by the wars I start. Oh, they're spending all of this money on this stuff. I got to save 8% a year on the Pentagon budget. They're bombing and killing civilians. Trump is literally sharing videos of blowing up, killing like a whole bunch of innocent civilians in Yemen, and it cost $1 billion so far with no end in sight.
Yeah. So and it's good people know the chain of events that happened. Remember, this thing started with this idea that we're going to stick it to Iran by going after Yemen. Now we know, because we've been covering the Middle East, obviously audience knows that Yemen is they're pretty much the poorest nation in that entire region. They're the most courageous because they are the ones in the streets for Palestine, and they know what's on the line. They know that this is going to piss off the Western war machine. So they were ready for this. They were ready to be attacked, and that's what happened. And like you listed all those things. Let's not forget the blowing up the water supply. So 50,000 of them lost their water, and that's also something that the Trump team gloats and brags about. We saw the signal gate, the fist bumping emojis, and the whole thing. Like, yeah, we got him, the apartment building, we blew him up. But like you're saying, there is a paper trail of money, and even the New York Times and CNN is admitting that this $1 billion has been spent. Now they're still using the language that it's, we're going after the Houthis. They're the terrorists, right? So we have the labeled a labeled name that's part of the marketing. That's the brand. So we don't have to think of them as citizens, of actual people. And so when Trump posted that he literally posted a war crime, Garland. He says we're getting them. They're not going to come after our Navy ships anymore. They're dead. You literally just blew up a bunch of civilians, and you posted it and bragged about it. And there's no pushback. Look, I appreciate the New York Times, CNN admitting to the money being spent that's not effective for anyone here. And they're saying they're using the words ineffective. However, they're also not going all in on the stuff we want to talk about because they have to still do cover for the war machine. But they are saying this isn't leading to anything sustainable. So that's good. But there's no who's going to pay the price for these war crimes? I mean, Trump, shouldn't there be like some consequences? You just posted a war crime. Like you locked up Julian Assange for posting for showing to the world the war crimes of George W. Bush and the Cheney regime, the Iraq footage of murdering citizens. Why does this not count for that? Like who, you can't blame a journalist this time. So we're just going to pretend it didn't happen. You literally posted it yourself. Could you imagine if George W. Bush or Dick Cheney, not that we had Twitter back then, but could you imagine if they just posted, here's what we just did in Iraq, and then Julian Assange would have been like, oh, that saves us a job. We were about to put that out on WikiLeaks, but you just did it for us. So this is how bad it's gotten. They're worse than Dick Cheney and George W. Bush. This is worse. They're putting it out themselves. So you don't have a Julian Assange to lock up this time.
And here's the thing about it. And we know it's all about one thing. Why? What they don't talk about. Oh, the Houthis are terrorists. And this is what I always say, this crisis we have of epistemology, this crisis of a deep dive in thinking, right? Okay, the Houthis are terrorists, right? Yes, they are. Explain to me why they're attacking the ships. And therefore why we're attacking him. What is it that makes them terrorists? Why are they attacking ships? Why are they saying you can't go? They will not talk about that. There is a reason and they claim both moral grounds, they claim international law grounds. Well, if you say they shouldn't be attacking the ships, explain to us why their claims of international law dispute their claims. They say, hey, there's been found reasonable suspicion of a probable cause for genocide, and under international law, we have to do everything we can to mitigate it. Okay, you disagree with them. Show me your legal argument of why they're wrong. But they can't even acknowledge the reason that the Houthis are doing it, because how do you dispute that? Because then you got to say, well, yeah, there has been evidence found of a genocide in court. There's been evidence produced to a court of international law, and that court of international law has made a ruling, right? So I can look at that and say, they've got evidence, dude. It's hard for to argue. You can't say they don't have evidence for their actions. You might not agree with them, but you can't call them terrorist actions. But instead, they're terrorists. We got to stop the terrorists. And if you say, well, I think they're doing, oh, you're supporting terrorists, that's the other thing, the censorship. And you're supporting, so you're going to lie to us about war. You're going to lie to us about you want to save money, and you're going to lie to us about censorship. All in one, all of that is except Israel. Hey, no censorship. Well, okay, because except Israel. We don't need to start any war. Yeah, of course, that's except Israel. Everything is except Israel. And people, you should have told us that, but you didn't, and you weren't going to, because it was all lies all the way down, just like Biden.
Yeah. And this seems to be a theme of our conversation today, Garland. It's the guilty by omission, lying by omission. And the American people are conditioned to go along with this. I mean, how many examples do we need of, hey, guys, the story starts one morning in February of 2022 when Putin woke up and decided to take over the world. Hey, guys, the horrible thing that happened in Israel, it started in October 7th when these Jew-hating Hamas people they just couldn't stand their hatred got so much they just couldn't contain it anymore, and they had to attack that dance event.
Oh yeah, the concert.
They had to do that, and it started right there. Never mind what happened before that. Don't pay attention to that. The story starts from when we tell you the story starts, and that's lying to us on purpose by omission. And we have to do better at saying, wait, what happened before that? What actually is going on? And that's the question we have to ask ourselves. The mainstream media is not going to do it. On purpose, they're not going to do it. We have to ask why. Why did this happen? Where is it coming from? And that's our job. And that's why we do this, because the mainstream ain't doing it. And again, like I said, that's on purpose. They're not doing it.
Well, I'm walking to the store the other day, and this is no unusual. And some seemingly nice young woman whose clothes looks kind of tattered, who's like kind of mumbling to herself and looking around, and walks up to me. Oh, excuse me, sir, could you have a couple dollars? You have a couple dollars, right? So we got a homeless young woman who seems to be mentally, obviously she ain't, right? You know the type, they're talking to themselves and they're mumbling and they're things of that. There's some significant mental illness there, right? A person should feel sorry for somebody that is probably not able to really take care of themselves in a real world, right? So I'm like, okay, we got $1 billion to bomb and kill Houthis. We got 133. You're celebrating an additional $133 billion to the military complex to make it a good even trillion. But we already know there's another 40, 50, 60, or 4, 5, 600 billion. So we're probably somewhere around $1.5 to $1.6 trillion military intelligence, all that kind of stuff. But yet I got to look at people wandering around the street in America who are unable to take care of themselves because of their mental illness. We can't do anything to provide health care to them. We can't do anything to provide housing, some kind of assistance for somebody like that. We don't have any responsibility for people who are unable to take care of themselves, but we got unlimited money for genocide and murder and Nazis and anything else. The sickening part of it, the moral part of it is that we got money for, as Tupac said, money for war, but can't feed the poor. That's the sickening. We see that. I see that with my own eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's just the reality of the system we are in. And we have to understand that the system itself, and I'm going to go further than say it's a broken system. I know it's easy. We talk about a broken system. It's not broken. It's functioning exactly the way it was intended. It's to deny the people of our own country, of these rights, of these things that we should just have better lives than we have. We should not have this homeless problem. We should not be, people shouldn't be living paycheck to paycheck like 80% of the country, one medical disaster away from total bankruptcy and homelessness themselves. And we shouldn't be doing this. This is on purpose because it's part of the system we're in. And like we said earlier, the capitalist system we live in functions only because of the Western imperialism that pushes it forward. We have to invade these countries. We have to have these upward transfers of wealth. We have to, put money in warmongers' pockets. We have to extend these, contracts with BlackRock and all the other horrible companies that have seized us and turned us, captured our government, captured the minds of the American people, and turned us into a corporatism functioning system that pretends that American exceptionalism is about this capitalism model, and anything that goes wrong is it's either they blame it on communism, which we're not doing, or they say crony capitalism and they try to pretend it's this offshoot that we have to get it back to the way it is. No, this is the way it is. This is the thing. This is exactly the thing that it was intended to be. And we have to say enough already, stand up and say we want something better.
Yeah, because, and now Trump's talking about getting rid of capital gains tax. So what are you going to do? The problem we have, the rich don't have enough. That's the problem we got. Is it's always, you ever notice that if, we're having problems economically, we're having all these problems, if we could have tax cut for the corporations and the rich people and get more money in their hands, which we already know, they're going to use the money to buy back their own stocks. They're going to use the money to go into the casino, artificially inflate stocks, and buy that money. Right now, they're like, oh my gosh, we need tax breaks. Why? The stock market's down. Well, what are we going to do? Oh, we're going to put it back right in the stock market, get the stocks up, and then we'll sell it out and get the hell out and keep that money and wait for it to deflate again so we can buy it for pennies on the dollar. Right now, they could be pushing us into here's the thing. People are like, they don't want a depression. Yes, they do. What happened in 2008? They drove everything down till it was worth nothing and bought it all for pennies on the dollar.
Yep.
What happened during the COVID crash? They drove the price of everything down and bought it back for pennies on the dollar. So right now, this tariff thing, okay, we can't get anything from China. Oh my gosh, everything's crashing. Well, what will happen if everything's a crash? They'll buy real estate, everything. They'll drive the prices down to zero. We'll suffer, die, and starve, and they'll buy it all for pennies on a dollar, and then they'll inflate the market back up, and it'll be worth 10 times that, and they'll make the money over the same game over and over again, and we're not supposed to figure it out.
So wait, what are you saying, Garland? That this wasn't an accident and wasn't like something that they were trying to avoid happening all these times? The COVID, the CARES Act was something that they didn't want to do and make all these new billionaires overnight? I'm confused, Garland, because I thought they were working on behalf of the people, like they were working on our health. They wanted it was all about our health. It should have also been about our bank accounts, right? It wasn't about it. Obama didn't kick 5.4 million people out of their homes because he had no choice, right? And he was trying not to do those things. I'm so confused right now, Garland. You're making me think that I have to rethink my entire opinion on how our system functions, because the banks owning everything and the people owning nothing, that can't be by design, could it? Oh my gosh, where does that leave us if it is?
Yeah, it leaves us. Well, these things are difficult to stomach, but I think by the other side is this. I have heard this said too. Look, this is a system that throws the working class under the people. So you know what? As you see it crumble, don't cry. There was an old joke about, and it's difficult because it's scary, right? But there was the old, again, Malcolm X said, talked about how rough the field slaves had it, and he said, and this was, he talked about that metaphor of the field slave and the house slave being the person that he's a slave, but he's got it better off. He lives in a house, he gets food, he's warmer, he has nice clothes, right? And the field slave is beaten and mistreated all the time, and his life's a living hell. But it was a nice, really metaphor for the society that we live in, because there are the privileged class, and then there's the people that go through hell. But he said, when the master's house catches on fire, he said, the house slave will try to put it out, help him out. Oh, no, the master's house. He said, the field slave, when the house catches on fire, the field slave will pray for wind, right? He's like, and I think that's what it is. I'm looking at a system that throws us under the bus, and this system's crumbling. We need something different. Yeah. We need, the term I would say is revolutionary change. Because all they do is they drive this thing to the .com crisis. of 2000. Then there's the 2008 crash, and every single time it works this way every time. There's a crash and the prices go down to nothing, and the rich people buy everything for pennies on a dollar. Then it comes back up, and they're richer than they were before. Then there's another crash, everything drops. They buy. Oh, it's obvious that the game is to have the occasional crash so you can drive the value of everything down to pennies on a dollar, and only the rich people got money then, and they buy it all up, and then they just drive things back up. That's nice. If every so often I could drive cars down to be worth $1 and buy up all of the cars, and then 2 or 3 years later, I bring them back up to they're all worth $50,000 again and sell them. And to me, that seems like the game. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that is exactly the game. And we were first being taught about this. You go back to the 80s, you go back to the Reaganomics and the trickle down economics, this hope that if the rich people because they're the ones that worked harder than us, right, Garland? That's how they got to be multimillionaires and billionaires, is because they just work longer hours. I mean, Americans holding down 2-3 jobs just to survive. They just need to work harder, because those billionaires, they worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's how they got their money. We all know that, right? Hard labor. So once they had their money, we figure, well, they're smarter than all the rest of us. So let's give them the tax breaks. Let's give them the opportunities. And so when the market crashes, which is by accident, of course, then they will just buy everything up. And then we'll all benefit from that, because they'll trickle it down to us, like Reagan told us. And they still champion him in the Republican Party. He's still the John Wayne of the party, who told us, yeah, you're going to get yours. Just look up and they'll be pissing down money on you after they have their 5th yacht and their 7th mansion and their 3rd island. They're definitely going to throw the rest down to you. But I do think, and sarcasm aside, I do think you hit it on the head. This is exactly what it's about. You let the rich people get to buy everything up when the time is right, and that time is when the stocks crash. And it looks like we're living through that yet again. If we don't see this by now, you guys got to wake up, because it's this, like Garland, you're hitting on the head. This is the same pattern we see over and over every 20 years or so.
Well, right now, Trump is doing these tariffs and the stock market's crashing. And what is the method of making money in the stock market? Buy low, sell high, right? If it never gets low every now and then, when do you buy? You know what I mean? Well, not to make real money. So what are they doing now? There's whatever's going to happen. They're going to bottom the hell out of it, of the market, because they're like, man, we can't really go much higher. All right, let's knock it down a little bit again. Look, I feel like this. If Trump was doing something now, what he's doing is pretty outrageous and it's having a significant effect. If the ruling elite didn't want him to do it, he couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. And if he tried, he wouldn't be around long. We know how the game works. They're not going to release the RFK, JFK documents, or they're going to be redacted, or they're going to keep the ones that have Israel stamped all over them. They're going to keep that stuff. Why? Because they can't. They know, you know. And they know that you know who killed them and that they did it. But they just, look, let's play the game. We're not going to give you the evidence. And we ain't going to give you the evidence. But we just want to make sure that every president knows, if you cross us, we'll kill them. And right now, they're like, I can't believe what Trump is doing. It's so outrageous. It's going to crash the market. And I'm like, if they didn't want him to do it, they would stop him. Somebody would come into his office and say, Trump, it stops right now. And if the right person, and we know who the right people are, with the real power came in and said, Trump, BlackRock. If Larry Fink came in and said, Trump, cut it out, he'd have to stop. But BlackRock sitting there saying, are they low enough yet to start buying? Nah, another 50% on China. Let's see if we can get them down another 30% before it's time to buy. Well, maybe we'll just run this whole damn thing into 1929 style crash. We'll give them about a year or two, then we'll really make a fortune. That's the way I see it. Maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist.
No, you're following patterns, which I guess conspiracy theorists, they do that. I don't know. They're kind of crazy, those conspiracy theorists, but it's about looking at patterns and saying we saw Obama getting that email on day one, telling him, because WikiLeaks, we got to see the email that, Julian Assange showed us the email. It says, here are it was day one of his presidency in 2009. Here are all the Citigroup people you're going to put at the head of all your different positions. And that's it. There's no question. You don't get to debate this. This is, we're in charge, mother effer. We're in charge. So you guys think that Trump has some special power, some 4D, 5D chess power over these people that are being assigned to these positions? You think that because he marketed himself well and said we're creating an Avengers team and we're gonna go kick ass at the deep state? Who do you think these deep state people? You think he's sticking it to them? They're being put right in place where they need to be. And like you said, Garland, if as soon as it's time to pull the plug on the terrorists, they're going to give him the phone call and he's going to have to listen. Just like every dollar that has to go to Israel is being instructed. He's not making that decision. He's being told to do it. And I'll throw this in because we're talking about who's in charge. I saw some people, some MAGAs holding on to this hope that there was this one little soundbite where he was sitting there, Trump was sitting there with Netanyahu. And they're like, you see, guys, who's in charge? You can tell Trump's in charge. One little soundbite where Trump turns to Netanyahu and says, we sure giving you a lot of money. We're giving you billions of dollars. You get billions of dollars every year. We give them billions of dollars. We give them billions of dollars. They thought that was an owning moment. And he turns to him, he says, congratulations on that. Congratulations, Netanyahu. Congratulations on the billions of dollars we give you. So that's not a moment to go, oh, Trump's in charge. He's complaining about the fact that he doesn't have a choice in that. That's the real reveal there. And people holding on to this, you see, he stuck it to him. Well, I'm not saying that Netanyahu liked the fact that Trump said that out loud, but but make no mistake, he's saying it out loud because he's frustrated that he doesn't have a say in it. And that's the thing that we have to take away from this. No president actually has a say in the things that they can do and can't do. They're told either on an email or on a phone call. That's it. And so you nailed it with that, Garland. This is when it's time to stop the terrorists, he will be instructed to stop. And it'll be someone from BlackRock doing it.
Look at this right here. Federal Reserve will need emergency quantitative easing if Treasury yields sustain surge above 5%. It could very well be that the system was just about ready to crash. And they were like, oh my God, what are we going to have to do? QE, in other words, printing free money. Oh my God, but we said we won't do this. Look, let's create some kind of a disastrous situation. We need an excuse to start printing the hell out of money again because this situation's getting ready to fall apart. All right, we'll do these tariffs. We'll make it look like everything's good. Then things will look bad, and then we'll start the QE again, and maybe we'll get. He's already dropped tariffs on 70 countries. Yeah. Okay, so those tariffs are pretty much gone. I mean, he's like, we're dropped for 90 days. They're pretty much gone. Mm-hmm. But they do want to decouple us from China. So they'll probably screw us that way. But the bottom line is they're going to go back to quantitative easing. Well, why do you use a term like that why don't you just say we're printing money that will drive up inflation and we're going to just put it right in the hands of the corporations? I see them now finally driving us all into poverty and saying, but you got this phone, man. You know the app's coming. We gave you an app. The Federal Reserve has decided that every month, since there's no work, there's no food, no water, no what, every month your app will have some digital currency on it of $4,000 to pay your bills or whatever. And although if you make a bad tweet or something like that, say the wrong thing on YouTube, that will be knocked down. You won't be able to access. You know what I mean? It'll be a means of control. Yep. But the app is coming with digital currency and oh yes, it's a universal basic income because you can't do anything else but starve. You have no other choice. And now you get your universal basic income. But there's some strings attached because if you say the wrong thing about Zionism, you might not get it this month, or it may be locked for a couple weeks, or maybe you can only use it for certain things. You know what that crap is coming. It's coming.
Oh yeah. And we could see it when it reminds me of the show. Do you remember Black Mirror? I think they have some more episodes coming out soon, but there's this very important episode of Black Mirror. If you guys know the show, go back. If you've seen it, but go back and watch this one again. If you've seen it, look up for Black Mirror. It's on Netflix. Bryce Dallas Howard plays this girl in the near future. It always takes place in just the near future, so it's not so far out. But you're just like, okay, and it's a technology problem. It's a problem that they're going to show us that we're headed to. So it's pretty interesting. And there's one where Bryce Dallas Howard plays a girl who we all have this app situation where we have our social media credit score. It's a social media score, and we grade each other. And so you have to get high grades from people throughout the day. If you get too many low grades from people, then your score goes down. You can't participate in society. So then you have to put on this fake smile, and everybody you see in the workplace, you're going up the elevator, you're going to the water cooler, you have to say, hi, how are you? And if you look like you're in a bad mood, someone can say, oh, this person's in a bad mood. I'm getting you a low score. your score goes down. So everything's controlled. You're being watched at all times. And if you do anything out of line, you get punished. And then you get more angry that you're not getting the thing you should get. Then you get more punished. And that's how it's insane. You guys have to watch this episode because this is exactly where we're headed. We're all going to have this social credit score of what we can do, can't do. You get rewarded if you keep your mouth shut. You get punished if you open your mouth. And we're living through this in real time. This is a Black Mirror episode come true right now in real time.
Oh, it's coming. The app is coming. The app, that'll be, I mean, that was, to me, the run through for them was during COVID. We didn't really get it much here. I think they did have it in New York and some states, but, you know, in Europe and Canada, where you had to have this app, it had to say you did the certain thing that you were supposed to do. That was completely safe and effective, I might add. But that you did this certain thing you were supposed to do, or you couldn't get on a train, you couldn't get on a plane, you couldn't work. You couldn't show up for what they had. A lot of places you couldn't work. You know, in Hollywood, you couldn't work. A lot of places you couldn't work. Do you remember the basketball player? I forgot, Kyrie Irving. It was so absurd. They're like, no, I'm sorry. You can't practice with the team and you can't show up at Madison Square Garden and play games. But if the other team could, if the other team, that's what I'll never forget. If the other team had people who hadn't taken the jab, they could come in and they could play. He was on the team there. He couldn't even show up at the practice facility, and he couldn't play.
That's right. He could not be on the court. He could not be on the court because it was a health risk to the rest of the team, because obviously he would have killed them. We know this. That's what they told us. He would have definitely killed at least one or two of his teammates. But he was allowed to show up to the building, right, in Brooklyn. He could sit in street clothes in the audience on the bench next to people, and he can watch his team play. And I think if you guys were watching that at the time and you didn't think that was bizarre and that something was wrong with that, I don't know what to tell you, because it was so obvious at that point that something's wrong. How is the best player on this team sitting on the bench because he might kill his teammates if he goes on the court, but he can sit with the audience and watch? Something is clearly wrong here.
You know, it was even better.
At that point.
You know, it was even better. So they had the players. They're out on the court. They're banging, beating the hell out of each other, sweating all over each other, biting each other, scratching each other. You name it. They're playing a good old game of basketball, right? Then when they went to the bench, they had to wear a mask. And I'm like, maybe they give each other the measles. That's what it is. There was danger that the measles would spread on the bench and they'd all die because, I mean, let's face it, that's one of the deadliest pandemics that's ever been known to humankind.
Oh,
good old measles.
It's so deadly, and thank God we know that the masks work, Garland, for these airborne diseases. They really shut, like, just like a screen door on a submarine will keep you safe from sinking, which we all know that works too. The masks work very well, and we know it stops the spread immediately. So that's why I double, triple, quadruple mask. Sometimes I quadruple mask, like Fauci showed us. So I'm just surprised they're not still doing it now. They should all be in masks. In fact, you should just be in a mask on the basketball court. That would make more sense. And I don't know why they stopped doing it. I guess they're not following the science. And I think there should be some punishments right now, because it's very dangerous. I don't like watching it, Garland. It's very dangerous watching.
Personally, I'm thinking about requiring masks in the chat. You know, all those people in the chat, for God's sake, we got 255 people in the chat. They could give each other measles. I think the people in the chat should all have to wear masks. That's I don't know how we'd be sure that they had them on. I guess we'd have to trust them or something like that. But, you got to be thrown out of the chat because we can't spread the old measles around. Well, thanks a lot, Matt. Tell everybody where they can find you again.
The Homeless Left. We are on Rumble twice a week, every Tuesday, Thursday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern. And we got our Twitter. We're on there as well. We started a new YouTube channel because they terminated our old one. So the new YouTube channel is THL Presents. Again, twice a week we're on. You guys can check us out tomorrow. We'll be we have Keaton Wise from Due Dissidents will be on with us tomorrow. So that'll be fun. And we'll love to have Garland. I think you're going to be coming on with us. We have I think we have
like
100
4 o'clock or something.
We're talking about, we're actually next week we're doing our 100th episode. So we're rocking and rolling, and we love the opportunity to come on here. I love having these discussions with you, Garland. And we're just keep doing it, and we'll just keep doing it. The independent media is alive and well, and we keep up the fight.
Yeah, and for people in the chat, I think from now on we're going to require, just to be safe, that you wear, in order to be a chat, a mask, a condom. Want to be safe too. If you're going to be in the chat, you probably should have a condom and a mask on, and get your MMR vaccine and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
We wouldn't want the measles spreading around, so we're trying to be safe and effective here, Matt.
Safety
all right,
first.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Don't forget, follow the Homeless Left, particularly over there on Rumble and at THL Presents on YouTube. Make sure you can see everything going across. You follow me on Rumble, follow me on Rockfin. If you can afford it, PayPal, Patreon, buy me a coffee, something like that's great. If you can't, that's fine. Just share this on all your social media platforms. And of course, follow me on my Substack. I've got a new article I just wrote the other day out there. So every once or twice a week, now I'm going to be putting out an article on my Substack. Thanks a lot, you all. And don't forget, share this on all your social media platforms. That's important. We're out.